in the show, but I want to get some perspective from Capitol Hill. Joining me now to talk about all this are two members of Congress who are practicing something that's not all that common on the Hill these days, bipartisanship. They are called Problem Solvers Caucus members, Republican Congressman Tom Reed of New York and Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Just give me a bit so our viewers know, who haven't heard about the Problem Solvers Caucus, what it is you are planning to do, Congressman Reed.
Well, you know, on the Republican side, I'm so pleased to work with Josh Gottheimer, the Democratic chair. We represent 40 members, 20 on each side, that are trying to govern, to organizing to get to yes. And we're voting as a bloc, and we're influencing the agenda out of Washington. And leadership that Josh has exhibited, I think, should be given credit. And I tip my hat to him for joining us in this effort.
Congressman Gottheimer, why as a bloc? What does that do for you, and how does it perhaps limit some of your members?
Well, I think as Tom was saying, the key really is to find a way to yes. And Tom and I always talk about this. You know, instead of showing up and finding the places we're going to scream at each other, you get 40 people to sit down together nearly every week in Washington to figure out where we can move forward as a country on. And I'll tell you, we clearly have challenges, whether it's infrastructure or tax reform. And so what we've been focused on, and Tom's done an excellent job working together, is where can we find the common ground? You know, so we've really been putting our working caps on tax reform and infrastructure. It's where we spent most of the time. We're looking at other places, whether it's regulatory reform that we can look forward on. And really, it's the common ground area, not the division.
Okay. However, Congressman Reed, the division is what a lot of people, where a lot of people live these days. So, for instance, Russia. We just finished talking about Russia. How do you make progress on the Russia investigation stuff when there isn't much partisan agreement on it?
Well, you know, as Josh and I have stated publicly, I think, you know, that's why I support the investigations and letting the evidence drive this process, making sure that it's always fact-based. And when you have that type of approach to it, I think then we'll get to the bottom of it, and that's the right thing to do for the American people.
Congressman Gottheimer, Vladimir Putin, I just want to play something that he said today to NBC's Megyn Kelly about U.S. bickering. Let's listen to this.
So I believe that we should stop this idle prattle, which is harmful. And I believe this is like transferring the internal political bickering of the United States beyond the borders of the country.
Now, in fairness, Congressman Gottheimer, there's been internal political bickering in the United States since the day it started, which is actually something most Americans are somewhat proud of, or at least are right to do that. But what do you make of the fact that that's what Vladimir Putin pointed out?
I think you should put your finger on it. I mean, that's what our country's based on, right? Debate. And, you know, it's never supposed to be easy. But the question is, can we get together and actually make progress? I think Putin is the last one to talk about this. But here at home, you know, I think we've got to clearly get to the bottom of what happened in Russia and their involvement, but we have to be able to walk and chew gum. And I think that's what the American public want. They want us to keep working on the challenges we have, and I think you can only do that if you're willing to actually work together and sit down together. Otherwise, nothing gets done. And, you know, I think our challenge when we get back to Washington next week is to find those places where we can work together. And Tom and I and the whole Problem Solvers Caucus, that's what it's about. I think people look at you like, really? In this day and age, you're willing to work together? And I think if we want to do anything, whether fix those roads or get the taxes down, it's going to have to be together.
Congressman Reed, I believe you have a town hall coming up. I've got some video here of the town hall you had in February where folks were pretty intense about Russia and about health care. What do you think is going to happen at your next town hall meeting, and will this idea of being a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus be helpful to you? Tell me a bit about this.
Well, you know, we've always done the town halls, and we have 4 more scheduled for tomorrow. You know, we're 250 plus of these, and I believe in them. I believe in having the conversation. I guess it comes from being the youngest of 12 and being raised in a household where there was a lot of disagreement, but at the end of the day, we were all part of the same family. And that's how I look at America. We are all American citizens at the end of the day. We can bicker, we can yell at each other, but we're going to do I'm going to do the hard work or try to listen to people and find that common ground. And that's why the Problem Solvers Caucus that Josh and I are heading up is so important, because I think people want us, I know, I hear it so often, they want us to govern and solve the American people's problems, and that's what I'm focused on as we go forward.
You're the youngest of 12? I've never known that about you.
I got 8. I got 8 older sisters and 3 older brothers.
And he looks pretty good.
That's pretty impressive. Let's talk, Congressman Gottheimer. Again, I get what you're trying to do, and I applaud you. Let me just start by saying that. I'm sure a lot of our viewers do. I guess I'm just trying to drill down to make sure that you guys are not, pie in the sky about this whole thing. We've got James Comey coming to testify before Congress next week. We have a lot of Republicans who want to know what he has and what he knows about Russia colluding with the Trump campaign. We have a lot of Republicans saying the biggest problem here is leaks and so-called unmasking. How do you go forward? You actually have Jim Comey. You got work to do. How do Democrats move forward with this?
Well, obviously, it's not coming before us. I'm going to be watching, too. And I think what people want, I believe, just from talking to folks, and especially being home now, they want accountability, right? So they want you to get to the bottom of it. They want the facts, as Tom was saying. But they also insist that you do your job, and they want you to solve problems at the same time. So I think Democrats, if we're smart and do what's right, and what I think people want is the things that they hired us for, whether clean drinking water or tax reform or fixing the roads and bridges, especially here in Jersey where I am. They want you to actually do your job. And so I think it can't be an either-or case, and I think that's what the Democrats need to do, and I think that's what will make the real difference for us going forward.
Okay, good. A little bit of self-awareness for the party and what you represent. Let's get the same from you, Congressman Reed. What do Republicans need to do differently, in your opinion, to get it done? I understand what the two of you are doing, but what influence would you like to have on your fellow Republicans in the House and the Senate?
Well, the Problem Solvers Caucus on the Republican side is growing just as it's growing on the Democratic side, and we've already moved the needle. I mean, we moved as a voting bloc on the government funding situation. We came together on a letter to our leadership and to the President on tax reform and infrastructure and tying that together. And we just had a great meeting with the Speaker and with Nancy Pelosi as a group. And I will tell you, those have been positive dialogues, have been positive messages that have been delivered. And what I think we need to do as Republicans is not say no to reaching across the aisle. We need to be open to it and do the hard work of legislating.
What's your take on Senator Burr saying today that he does not see a comprehensive health care plan this year? He said it's dead on, the House plan is dead on arrival in the Senate, and he doesn't see it getting done this year.
Well, I've given up trying to predict what the Senate's going to do. All I can tell you is the status quo is not sustainable. We have the insurance markets collapsing. We're having higher co-pays, higher deductibles, and I just don't see the Senate being able to do nothing on this issue. They have a bill in front of them. It's their job now, in my opinion, to move on that bill and improve upon it or do their own thing, and then let's continue the debate with the American people.
Congressman Gottheimer, if the Senate doesn't do anything, what happens?
Well, I think the key, I think the Senate doesn't do anything. Hopefully we go back to the drawing board, and this time around it's done in a bipartisan way where we actually sit at the table together and try to fix it. There's plenty of us who want to fix the ACA, but jamming it through is not the answer, in my opinion, and I think Tom touched on it exactly right. You can either take two approaches, and I think you either obstruct for the sake of it on our side, or you refuse to work together on their side, and I think both answers are the wrong answer. You have to get together and actually be willing to solve problems like health care. So I'm hopeful that that's what happens in this case, that we can go back to the drawing board and start working together on health care, because right now it seems like it's destined for failure.
Guys, thanks very much. What a pleasure to talk to you. Really interesting to find out about Congressman Reed's family. I look forward to seeing you guys and see what you achieve.
I'm his little brother.
Yeah, no, apparently it's quite possible. This is Congressman Josh Gottheimer.